Hello and welcome to CEO Insights. I'm Marilyn de Guzman with Investing News Network. We're at PDAC in Toronto and we're sitting down with Frank Basa, CEO of Canada Silver Works, to talk about market trends in the battery metal sector. Welcome, Frank.
Hi.
How are you
today? Good
today?
afternoon. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Good to have you. So, Frank, I guess to start off, could you give us an overview of the company and some latest developments on your projects?
Yeah. So originally, we started this company in the cobalt camp. Basically, we picked up an asset that Agnico Eagle Mines had about 12 years ago. We paid $12,000 for it, and we had a very good discovery hole. We came back in, I think, 25 or 35,000 grams per ton silver, and it was actually in one of our other companies. We put it into this company, the Shell, and we had some more discoveries. So basically, we were looking for silver with some cobalt values. The camp is actually called Cobalt. The town is called Cobalt, but its primary metal has been silver for decades. So we're fortunate enough to find some very high-grade silver or a lot of cobalt, nickel, copper, and we also found some gold now. But the company itself has been also kind of used as an incubator. We picked up some nice nickel, cobalt, copper assets all over Ontario and Quebec, about 40,000 hectares. And we're doing a spin out. So we'll be spinning out our Graal property, which is in Quebec. We've some very good success there. Basically, some of our holes are about 10 to 30 meters long, about 1% in nickel. There's a lot of copper in it and cobalt. So we're treating it as a nickel deposit.
Right. So you started off, as you said, with silver cobalt, but you've kind of expanded and you've grown into the battery metal space. Yeah. So why was that an important venture for you, for the company to make a play for this battery metals market?
I think when you look at it, we're going to break the company in two. I think there's the precious metals is probably going to have a good run. And then if you're a shareholder, of course, of this company, normally what we do, we give a share and a warrant when we do the spin out into what we call Conneagus. Last time we did that, we basically gave out about $16 million worth of dividends. For a junior company, it's pretty good. So if you're a shareholder with us, like a loyalty program, you do quite well with us. And I think the battery metals are not going to go away. Quebec, Ontario, kind of safe jurisdictions globally. And I think a lot of support will come from the government in Quebec, especially in Quebec, and Ontario as well. So I think it's a good fit for us. And I think we'll do quite well.
Yeah, so there are definitely a lot of opportunities in the battery metals sector, especially with the move towards decarbonization and electrification. So what are opportunities and challenges that you see for the mining sector?
Well, the opportunities are actually massive. We also have a process called the V2Ox. It's kind of, I call it very much a green process. It was actually developed over a 6-year time frame. We spent $8 million on it. We went all the way from a lab to 2 pilot plants to plant testing, and we've already produced product for Sumitomo in Japan. We're actually in Japan, about 4 or 5 years ago, ahead of anybody else. We met with Nissan. They introduced us to Sumitomo. They gave us a spec sheet, and we're able to produce on spec cobalt sulfate, one of the main ingredients in lithium-ion battery. So we have basically the whole picture is kind of put together. And I think to benefit the shareholders in the market, we break up the company. We've done that successfully in the past. Hopefully the same thing is again be available to our shareholders.
Mm-hmm. So can you, let's talk about V2Ox. Could you give us an overview of what this technology is? What's the prospect for it?
Well, the process is actually quite simple. We designed it that way. We call it low-tech, high sophistication. It was designed a plant we put like this anywhere in the world. So basically, you don't need a PhD to run it. You can run it with the local people. Very elemental, and it's kind of a zero discharge, which it is. It's a hydrometallurgical process. There is no stacks, and it's something that people are looking for now. They don't want anything. If you're burning something, they really don't want it. So we use it also on what they call black mass. It worked well, and then we also just recently we tried it on something called rubidium. It's not part of the rare earths. It's a unique thing that they actually add. Apparently, rubidium carbonate is added to the lithium-ion and sodium-ion battery to improve its chargeability. So that's the only product apparently that nobody controls globally. While the rare earths are actually, the Chinese kind of control it. Even cobalt, to a certain degree, they've done quite a good job in the DRC. And what we can do here in Canada or North America is actually provide a product for the North American market. So it's a simple process. We've tried it. It runs. We met specs. Like Sumitomo has very demanding specs. We're able to meet them. And I think we should be able to meet the specs of all the North American battery manufacturers.
Yeah, that certainly gives some credence to your ESG standing, right? Like, is that what do you see in terms of the mining sector and the move towards, efforts that really go towards sustainability and making the operations more green?
I think they'll do it. I just attended a course here for 2 days on ESG, taught by a wonderful lady from Scotland. I was very impressed with it. I was always under the impression that ESG is a very simple thing. It's a little more than a simple thing. But you know what? It's long overdue that the industry should be going in that market. And you know what? It's fair. It's actually fair to everybody. It's a lot of transparency. And the things they're doing, it's all about, can we make the world a better place?
Right.
And it's quite nice to see.
Are you seeing that translating into the investor community? Like, are they looking? Is that something that they look into?
A lot of the investment community, it's conditional that you have a very, let's call it transparent operation, And I was impressed. There's a group called BlackRock. It's probably one of the conditions that they ask for before they invest.
So what's the future, or what's the plan for RE2OX? Like, what's moving forward?
Yeah, the RE2OX process is actually dependent. What we're trying to do is put the process. It's actually a very elemental process, close to where the product is going to be used or produced. So we don't get into long distance shipping. A lot of these people will bring stuff in. For example, what comes in from the DRC goes to China or goes to Japan, and then the car comes back here to Canada or something like that. So we intentionally made the process, like I call it, low tech, high sophistication. Anybody can run it. It's actually a cheap process. The equipment's fairly cheap. Anybody can run it. And it'll be dependent, we were looking originally at putting something here in the North American environment, either Ontario or Quebec. But, somebody showed up, we met with the Germans, we met the Chinese, we met with the Japanese in their countries. Late last year, we met with the South Koreans. So it's open. It's, like I said, it's a really elegant process when you look at it. It's not a lot of people will spend $500 million building this thing. Originally, we built a plant like this when I was with Agnico, operated like this. I don't think it was more than $20 million. But it was very, like I said, low-tech, high sophistication, designed for, almost any operator to operate. So hopefully, depending if we can fit this thing into the market that it needs, and we're addressing all like the needs of globally, if you want to call it, but we're trying to save, transportation, basically,
True. It certainly closes the loop, right, in the whole building the domestic supply, push towards that.
It's when you look at it in the North American environment, let's call it Ontario, Quebec, we have the resource. It's really like this place, Cobalt, the town of Cobalt. There's a lot of cobalt there, and they mined a lot of it over the years. And, they're building a battery plant here in Ontario. It's massive. And produce a product here in Canada. We have we have the resource, we have the infrastructure. Lots of times I work in these countries. Roads there today, tomorrow it's gone. And it's kind of safe, I've never been shot at in North America. And I've been shot at in some of these.
That's good to know.
And it's kind of, wherever the need is, we're willing to go anywhere.
Right.
But right now we're focusing, like I said, like on our spin-up, Graal, it's in Quebec. The Quebec people are super supportive. Investment in Quebec, we do presentations all over the world. We meet with them in New York. They said, what are you guys doing here? We met with them in New York. Actually, they came to our booth. The deputy minister came to our booth in England. And so they have a very good and very good system set up. And they're very positive about, the whole electrification of the vehicles. And, for example, most people don't know, but in Quebec, there's a company called Lion, I think. They're the only ones that make electric school buses.
Oh, wow.
For all of North America.
That's great.
So I think we're in the right place, in our corridor, what I call it, in Canada or Ontario, Quebec. Right people, right resource, and you know what? We can do quite well.
Sounds great. And on that note, thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
And thanks for joining us, everyone, and see you again next time in another engaging conversation on CEO Insights.